Hello and welcome to another episode on Maritime Radar. Innovation and digitalization is pushing the maritime industry beyond its traditional limits and is providing many opportunities that enhances productivity, efficiency, sustainability of shipping and logistics. Vessel designs to surveillance framework for coastlines and inland waterways, fishing, recreational craft operations, oil bunkering, and sea exploration to shipbuilding and maintenance. Customs processes, automation, and artificial intelligence. The shipping sector, like every other sector, has evolved. The position in Nigeria's shipping sector towards economic growth are some of the issues that will be on the front burner on today's show. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. Statistics show that Nigeria pays about $9 billion in freight each year to foreign ship owners, either to export oil or to import finished goods. As of today, Nigeria derives no benefit from the freight incurred. A substantial amount of foreign exchange is being lost to foreign shipping operators and owners. From available records, the value of vessels engaged in the three areas of Nigeria's shipping business, namely offshore rigs and support vessels, coastal cabotage trade, import and export trade, amount to over $20 billion. The consensus is that if Nigeria can gain a foothold in its shipping industry, the potential will be enormous. If shipping activities are properly harnessed, shipping will be ranked next to oil in foreign exchange earnings, if not overtaken. As oil is a wasting asset, but shipping is eternally relevant. Before we get further into today's lineup on the program, let's find out the latest in maritime news.
Authorities and migrant advocates have said that more than 60 migrants are feared dead after a Spanish fishing vessel rescued a boat of the Atlantic archipelago of Cape Verde that originally had more than 100 people aboard. The International Organization for Migration spokesperson, Safa Mseli, added that 7 bodies were found on the boat, while an estimated 56 people are missing at sea and presumed dead. According to Senegal's Foreign Affairs Ministry, 38 people were rescued earlier in the week near Cape Verde, as about 620 kilometers off the coast of West Africa. The Spanish migration advocacy group, Walking Borders, said the vessel was a large fishing boat, which had left Senegal since July 10th. It was 10 days later, after families had not heard from their loved ones, that they reached out to Walking Borders. The group believes nearly 1,000 people have died while trying to reach Spain by sea in the first 6 months of 2023. The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency has said that an oil rig operated by Seplat Energy plc, which capsized at Ovo in Warri, Delta State, has been operating illegally since 2016. The rig, owned by Depthwise Nigeria Limited and chartered by Seplat, leading to 1 fatality, while 3 crew members remain missing, and 92 have been accounted for. In a statement signed by Nneoma's spokesperson, Osage Edward, the agency said it had dispatched a team made up of search and rescue and marine accident investigation officers to the scene of the incident. The statement added that initial findings confirmed that the rig had been operating in Nigerian waters since 2016 without requisite approval from the agency. Nneoma has initiated contact with the Clean Nigeria Associate, a conglomerate of all international oil companies responsible for cleaning the Tier 2 oil spills, to establish the level of spillage at the scene of the incident. The Chief Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogara, had handed over 6 glass-reinforced plastic riverine boats manufactured by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development by the Naval Dockyard Limited. The boats are to be used to access riverine areas, to monitor and support agricultural activities, and ensure food security. During the handover, Ogale noted that curbing national security threats such as illegal, underreported, unregulated fishing in the maritime domain would also help to improve food security. The boats were conceptualized, designed, and built to suit the requirements of the ministry, as well as the environment in which they operate. They are also part of the first step the Nigerian Navy has made towards indigenizing ship construction and maintenance. The boat carriers would be distributed to 4 coastal states: Lagos, Rivers, Cross River, and Akwa Ibom. The Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Association and Safety Agency, Dr. Bashar Jamo, has commended President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the creation of the Marine and Blue Economy Ministry, as well as appointment of Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo to oversee its affairs. The DG believes the creation of the long overdue ministry would give a boost to the president's plan and programs, as there are new opportunities around and now, and Nigeria can explore the concept of blue economy. The blue economy involves the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, improving livelihoods and jobs, while preserving the health of the ocean ecosystem. Blue economic activities include maritime shipping, fishing and aquaculture, coastal tourism, renewable energy, water salination, undersea cabling, seabed extractive industries, deep-sea mining, marine genetic resources, and biotechnology.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first.
If you are just joining us, this is Maritime Radar. It is expected that Nigeria generates about 70% of the volume of the total cargo traffic within the West and Central African regions. This represents a significant cargo shipping opportunities for Nigerian shipping companies. Sadly, Nigeria has no meaningful participation in the ship operation on which her economy depends on. In this chat with Dr. Chris Asoluka, a maritime expert and former chairman, Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority, he shares nuggets to shipping development. Stay with us. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Let's start this conversation having a clear understanding of the economic potential of the shipping industry.
The endowment is there, and you also have a young population. In terms of what we call the milieu, Nigeria is a maritime nation, because if you look at the 853 kilometers and you see the Nigeria, you see the Jaws, and these are live maritime people. Come to think of it, shipping is what we call a derived demand. Nobody wants a ship just for the heck of having a ship. And there is this aphorism: God would have been the first ship owner, because he created the earth, 2/3 of it, filled it with water, but put resources far distant from each other. So, in order to convey from one point for raw material to distribute, you need the fastest, the cheapest means of transportation.
So looking at what you've said, you've been using was. That means we lost it at a point, meaning there's a shipping development gap.
Yes.
So coming back to
Yeah.
Nigeria and looking at the agency whose core function is shipping development, you want to say they failed in this core function?
No.
Or
It went
what-
far.
so at what point
it
do we
went
mix?
far before them. I do know that King Jajo of Opobo, about 1870 or so, either acquired a vessel or attempted to acquire a vessel, right? And when he dominated the, palm oil trade in the lower Niger. But when the colonial authorities came, it was a deliberate policy that all things in colonialism was to create an economic welfare for what we call the metropole, the center. So every peripheral operation had to be aligned to supply the needs of the center. When there was almost a war between America in terms of lighterage was preserved for the British. Okay. So if you brought your big, huge vessel, the smaller boats, they controlled it. So what am I trying to say? Countries, the colonial authorities appropriated our maritime resources to service the needs of the center. Does it surprise you that the Nigerian Ports Authority, the Port of Lagos was built about 1920s, but MPA was established in 1955. So the Nigerians were abandoned, who were not trained. They could be used for other things, but there was no deliberate policy to encourage maritime development.
Okay, so you are saying that lack of policy, or is it lack of implementation, is what has hampered the shipping development?
No, it's part of the colonial legacies. Like, why was Lagos Port built?
Okay.
To service Kano and Lagos. Why was Port Harcourt built in 1912?
Okay.
To create a gateway for the coal you were getting from Enugu and all that. So anything they did was intentional, right? To support the metropole.
Okay.
So they were not preparing the Nigerians as it were.
Okay.
So whatever development we had was the old method. Until 1959 was when the act was passed to establish the Nigerian National Shipping Line,
Okay.
right? And to be part of international stuff. We'll come to that.
So you mentioned Nigerian shipping line.
Yes.
What is the importance in our shipping development? Because we lost that. So how do we redress? How do we match this gap?
The UNCTAD code say in a bilateral trading situation, say UK and Nigeria, the goods generated, Nigeria should be entitled to carry 40% of that, and UK 40%. Then the cross traders 20%. So that was the UNCTAD liner code of 1974. It took us how many years? 15 years. We were sleeping. Cote d'Ivoire had already domesticated, Ghana had. But in 1987, we seem to have woken up from the slumber. And we now passed what we call the National Shipping Policy Act, which was now to enforce that cargo reservation to the benefit of national carriers. Because in shipping, two things are very critical. Freight, the regularity of freight, and financing. But if the freight is there, financing will be secondary. Because if you have a ship and you don't have a cargo, even for one day, a ship is like a country.
So how do we improve the indigenous participation?
The new formation called Nneoma, if I'm to fast track, is the agency intentionally created to develop shipping in Nigeria. MPA is to provide where ships anchor to discharge their goods. Nigerian Shippers Council is to protect the interests of shippers. Shippers are different from ship owners. So when we talk about shipping development, intentionally it's Nnemasa, but Nneoma plays a little role when we now come to cabotage. Cabotage is coastal, but the authority in charge of cabotage again is Nnemasa.
We are due for a break. We'll take your closing thought on that when we return. Please stay with us.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa First.
Okay, before we went on that break, you were talking about the core functions of these maritime agencies, MPA, Nnemasa, NEWA, and Shippers Council. Can we take your concluding thoughts on that?
Yeah, because we are talking about shipping development. I think we should focus more on Nnemasa because Nnemasa...
Because they have the core function.
Oh yes, they are core function. And in terms, the CVFF, cabotage, all this specifically is domicile, is under their custody. And when you read part of the objectives of Nnemasa, and what do you now talk about shipping development? We are talking about, vessel acquisition, shipyards, right? That's the maritime assets and repairs. Then you are talking of, call it manpower development. How do you are talking of cargo availability, and it's their core function. So it will take a day to talk about.
But we are particularly about our indigenous
shipping company.
Shipping owners, because we see 80% vessels operating in Nigeria are owned and crewed by foreigners, which is a clear violation of the Cabotage Act of 2007, which is monitored
2003.
2003, sorry.
And became functional in 2004.
So, which is the core function of Nnemasa.
Yes.
So, how do we address this challenge?
No, I'm aware that late last year, President Buhari granted approval on the commencement of CVFF. CVFF stands for Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, right? Which intentionally is established to support Nigerian ship owners acquire vessels or even build shipyards and repair and all such ancillary stuff. I'm aware that they are working on the fundamentals so that the problem they had in the era of what we call ship acquisition and shipbuilding fund, which almost was a disaster. It lasted from 1993 to 1995. And at the time it was stopped, we had lost about $78–80 million, and which made President Obasanjo a bit hesitant to look towards shipping, because he would tell you that in 1979, I left 26 ships. I came back in 1999, I only met one that was, limping. So why do you want to disturb me with shipping? Apart from that, the ship acquisition funds I set up, people took money, they didn't repay. But there were a lot of things wrong, even in the implementation modality. How can you give someone $1 million, $2 million to acquire a ship? Are you serious? It was a joke. It was a handout. And in shipping, just like in finance, we don't allow a mismatch. Mismatch is when you are negotiating for a ship, make sure the money or how you are going to buy the ship is in place. Because shipping, one day is could change a lot of things. Shipping is known for, is capital intensive, right? Margin not very high. Above all, it's volatile. The volatility means the freight that was high today, and because of that, you entered into shipping. By the time you would have acquired the ship, it could collapse.
So how do we address
Manage
this?
the volatility? It's technical. But now we've gotten it right because we are looking more inward.
Okay.
Prepare a Jegule League and become the West African champion. When you are not of age, you can play in the international league. Cabotage Act, that is the inland, coastal and inland waterways act, waters act, is the umbrella. And section 45 of that provided for a fund.
But it has not still,
Addressed,
addressed the issue
yes.
since it was.
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about, which you gave back to CVFF and all
Correct.
that, gave back to. But how can we address that fundamental?
I think they're addressing it now. Now, I told you last year, about December, President Buhari granted approval for commencement of disbursement of that.
But we've been on that too.
A minute. I understand they have about $350 million there. And the structure
will be doubled.
Yeah, this is not double, but let me explain that because people who run away will force something. The structure of that, after the failure of ship acquisition and shipbuilding fund, some people will look through it to find the faults, right? Now we say, okay, fine. If you want to apply for the loan, you must be a real person who is into shipping and not just like a fly-by-night stuff. So now, NIMASA will bring 50% of the fund. Banks will bring 35%. And you put your money where your money is. Yes. So if banks are bringing their fund, of course, the due diligence will be more thorough and the monitoring will be more thorough. So the sustainable fund will be more assured. Now, to be sure that you are a serious-minded ship owner, you bring 15%. So 15 plus 35 is 50, which means apart from the 350 NIMASA has, these other parties will bring 50%.
Okay, so what then is your advice on how this money should be disbursed? The disbursement have been approved. A lot of stakeholders have been giving their own recommendations on how this money should be disbursed. So what is your own view?
Yeah, I saw three major issues which are being addressed. One, the stakeholder buying and ownership. And to do that, there has to be a conceptualization. People must understand the intention, the vision, the purpose. Because like the ship acquisition and shipbuilding fund, some Nigerians thought it was their own part of the national cake. I know a general who saw me once and was complaining that he was tricked into applying for this fund, and they said that he's owing 4 million, that he never saw the money, right? Most Nigerians then thought it was a free money. But now, if you have a real conceptualization and stakeholder buying and ownership, they will understand that this is to build a revolving sustainable fund, one. Two, the implementation process has to be more rigorous, which is why you have the PLIs, banks called primary lending institutions. So some of the activities would start with them. So NIMASA will only be interested to make sure that banks don't exploit Nigerians.
Okay, as an expert, what do you think should be done now in shipping development? What should be done now?
NIMASA has started and they should be encouraged. All the stakeholders should have faith. I don't blame them there seems to be trust deficit because the last time they felt it wasn't well handled. But I think that you failed one exam doesn't mean that you shouldn't write other exams.
We must thank you for your time on the program. It's been Dr. Chris Asoluka. He is a maritime expert and the former chairman, Oil and Gas Free Zone Authority. I must thank you most kindly for your time on the show.
Thank you, and for at least trying to lift the maritime sector, which is bigger than the oil sector.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it. People who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first.
And that's our show this week. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. Every week, join us on Maritime Radar as we explore factors that will ensure the development of the maritime sector in Africa. You can also expect the latest in global maritime news and industry insights right here. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. Many thanks and see you again next week.